They smile when you talk, nod when you share your dreams, celebrate your small wins with perfect enthusiasm. But behind that mask, they are cataloging your weaknesses, memorizing your patterns, building a detailed map of exactly where to strike when the moment comes. And the most terrifying part? You invited them in. Machiavelli spent his life studying power, and he discovered something most people never learn until it's too late. The people who destroy you aren't strangers in dark alleys. They're the ones you break bread with, the ones you confide in. Right now, there are 7 types of people in your life actively working against you. They operate in the shadows of your trust, and by the time you realize what they've done, your empire is already in ashes. Most men go their entire lives surrounded by these 7 types, never understanding why their relationships always end in betrayal, why their business partnerships always collapse, why their secrets always end up in the wrong hands. They never learned to see the signs. They never developed the cold, surgical eye that Machiavelli possessed, the eye that could look at a smiling face and see the knife hidden behind the back. Today, I'm giving you that eye. But before we expose these 7 types, if you want to protect yourself from manipulation and betrayal, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss these lessons. The algorithm hides truth from those who need it most. Don't let that be you. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I trust strategically, not blindly. Number 1. The emotional vampire who disguises need as loyalty. Someone in your circle always has a crisis, always needs your help, always requires your emotional energy, your time, your resources, and they've convinced you that this constant need is loyalty. They've trained you to believe that a real friend shows up every single time, no matter how many times they call, weaponizing your sense of duty against you. This person is bleeding you dry. Machiavelli understood that the most dangerous debts aren't financial. They're emotional. When someone makes you feel obligated to rescue them repeatedly, they're not showing you vulnerability, they're showing you strategy. Every crisis is a test. Think about your last 10 conversations with this person. How many were about their problems? How many times did they ask about your struggles, your goals, your vision? If the ratio is heavily skewed toward their drama, you're not dealing with a friend, you're dealing with a parasite. The genius of their approach is making you feel noble for helping them. Every time you solve their crisis, you get a hit of significance, you feel needed, but you're being trained to prioritize their emergencies over your own empire. You're being domesticated. Real loyalty flows both ways. Real friendship doesn't require constant rescue missions. The person who is always drowning isn't loyal. They're opportunistic. The emotional vampire creates dependency by design. They never actually solve their problems, because solved problems mean they lose their hold on you. They need you to believe that you're the only one who can save them, that without you, they'll fall apart. That's the trap. The moment you start to pull away, watch what happens. They escalate. The crises become more dramatic. The emotional appeals become more intense. They remind you of all the times they were there for you, while conveniently forgetting those times were few and far between. They make you guilty. You cannot build an empire while carrying dead weight. You cannot maintain your edge while being constantly drained by manufactured emergencies. Cut them loose. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I protect my energy from vampires. Number 2. The mirror who reflects your dreams back to you. This one is dangerous because they make you feel seen. They listen when you talk about your vision, nod at all the right moments, seem to understand your ambitions better than anyone else. reflecting your own thoughts back to you with such precision that you start to believe they're your intellectual equal. You're being studied. The mirror is the most sophisticated psychological operator in your circle. They're not interested in your vision. They're interested in what your vision can do for them. They study you with predatory focus. Machiavelli warned that the most dangerous advisor is the one who tells you only what you want to hear. The mirror goes further. They don't just tell you what you want to hear. They become what you want to see, morphing their personality, their opinions, their entire presentation to match your desires. Dangerous comfort. Pay attention to their opinions when you're not in the room. Pay attention to what they believe when there's no benefit to believing it. The mirror has no core. They make you lower your guard. You start sharing information you shouldn't share, revealing your strategies, your weaknesses, your fears. Doing this because you believe they're on your team. They're gathering intelligence. Think about the people in your life who seem to agree with you on everything. The ones who never challenge you. The ones who always validate your perspective. Now ask yourself, is this genuine alignment? Or have they learned that agreement is the fastest way to gain my trust? The difference between a true ally and a mirror is that a true ally will tell you when you're wrong. They'll push back, challenge your thinking because they care about your actual success. The mirror never disagrees. The mirror is playing a longer game, building a detailed profile of who you are, what you want, how you think, learning your decision-making patterns, memorizing your emotional triggers. And when the time comes, when they've extracted everything of value from the relationship, they'll either disappear with your ideas and connections, or they'll use their intimate knowledge of you to undermine you in ways you never saw coming. Number 3. The competitor disguised as a cheerleader. You have someone in your life who celebrates your wins a little too enthusiastically. They're always in your comments, always sharing your posts, always telling other people how proud they are of you. On the surface, this looks like support, but Machiavelli would look deeper and see a competitor who has learned that the best way to keep tabs on an enemy is to pretend to be their biggest fan. This person isn't celebrating you, they're studying you. Every time you post about a success, they're analyzing your strategy. Every time you share your next move, they're taking notes. Every time you reveal a new connection or opportunity, they're figuring out how to access the same thing for themselves. They're positioning themselves. The brilliance of this approach is that it gives them perfect cover. If you ever question their motives, they can point to all the times they supported you, show you the receipts of their public praise, make you look paranoid for suggesting that someone who's been so vocal about your success could possibly be working against you. Pay attention to what happens when you achieve something significant. Does this person genuinely celebrate you? Or do they immediately pivot the conversation to their own accomplishments? There's a difference. Machiavelli observed that envy is one of the most powerful and destructive forces in human relationships. But envy rarely shows its true face. It wears the mask of admiration, speaks the language of support, and the competitor has learned to channel their envy into a performance of friendship while working behind the scenes to either match your success or sabotage it. This person will never be happy for you the way you think they should be. Your success is a constant reminder of their own perceived inadequacy. Every milestone you hit is a judgment on their own progress. Every door that opens for you is a door they believe should have opened for them. Zero-sum thinking. You keep them close because you mistake their attention for affection. You think they're in your corner because they're always watching your fights. But they're not watching to support you. They're watching to learn your techniques so they can use them against you later. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I see through false celebration. If you thought the first 3 were dangerous, you aren't ready for what comes next. The next people don't just drain you or study you. They chain you to a version of yourself that's already dead. And the worst part? You let them do it because you think you owe them something. You don't. Watch carefully. Number 4, the historical hostage keeper. There's someone in your life who constantly reminds you of who you used to be, bringing up old mistakes, referencing embarrassing moments from your past, telling stories about the version of you that you've worked desperately hard to evolve beyond. And they do all of this under the guise of nostalgia, of keeping it real, of making sure you don't forget where you came from. They're keeping you chained. Machiavelli understood that power requires reinvention. Growth requires the death of old identities, and the historical hostage keeper refuses to let that death happen, keeping the old you alive in their stories, their jokes, their constant references to your past. They prevent emergence. Every time they bring up an old version of you, they're subtly communicating that they don't believe in the new version, saying your transformation isn't real, that you're still the same person underneath, that you're putting on an act. If you hear this message enough times, you start to believe it. Your evolution threatens them. When you change, you hold up a mirror to their stagnation, proving that transformation is possible, which means they have no excuse for not changing themselves. So instead of being inspired by your growth, they try to drag you back down to the level where you used to exist together. Pay attention to how often this person talks about your past versus your future. Pay attention to whether they celebrate the person you're becoming or mock them. The historical hostage keeper defaults to the past. You cannot build a new empire while living in the ruins of the old one. You cannot become sovereign while someone else holds the deed to your history. Leave them behind. Number 5, the boundary tester who measures your weakness. This person constantly pushes against your boundaries to see how far they can go before you finally push back. Not interested in destroying you quickly, but in establishing dominance slowly, testing your limits, one violation at a time, until they've mapped out exactly how much disrespect you'll tolerate. They're measuring you. Machiavelli knew that respect is earned through demonstrated consequences, not proclaimed boundaries. The boundary tester understands this too. They know that words mean nothing without enforcement, so they ignore your stated limits, show up late, make commitments, and break them. Borrow things and don't return them, say things that are just barely on the edge of acceptable. Then they watch. Every time you let a boundary violation slide, you're teaching them that your boundaries are negotiable. You're showing them that you'll prioritize keeping the peace over protecting your sovereignty. And once they learn this pattern, they escalate. It gets worse. This happens incrementally. No single violation is bad enough to justify ending the relationship. No single boundary cross is dramatic enough to make you look reasonable for cutting them off. So you absorb each small disrespect, telling yourself it's not worth the confrontation. You lose power. The boundary tester is performing a calculation, assessing whether you're a wolf or a sheep, determining whether you're someone who enforces consequences or someone who makes threats they never follow through on. And the moment they conclude that you're all bark and no bite, they've established dominance. Machiavelli would tell you that the first boundary violation should be met with immediate, disproportionate consequences, not out of anger, but out of strategic clarity, sending a message that your limits are not suggestions, that your standards are not negotiable. Make it costly. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My boundaries are non-negotiable. Number 6. The secret keeper who weaponizes vulnerability. You told them something in confidence, something you've never told anyone else. A fear, a failure, a secret shame, and in that moment of vulnerability, you felt relief, felt seen, felt like you'd finally found someone who could handle the real you. You gave them ammunition. The secret keeper collects your vulnerabilities the way a blackmailer collects evidence. They don't do this consciously. Don't sit there plotting how to use your secrets against you. But they store them, file them away, and when the relationship eventually sours, when your interests no longer align, when you become an obstacle to something they want, those secrets become weapons. Machiavelli warned that a prince must never reveal his true fears to anyone, because fear is the easiest emotion to exploit. The secret keeper has a catalog of your fears. They know what keeps you up at night, what you're ashamed of, where your armor has gaps. They have leverage. The most dangerous version of this person is the one who never explicitly threatens you with your secrets. They don't need to. The threat is implied in every interaction. You censor yourself around them, avoid certain topics, stay on their good side because you know, consciously or unconsciously, that they have the power to destroy your reputation with a single conversation. Pay attention to how freely you speak around different people. If there's someone in your life who makes you constantly self-censor, who makes you walk on eggshells, who knows things about you that could be used to humiliate or harm you, that person has too much power. They turn your own honesty against you. They make you regret the moments when you were real, punishing you for being vulnerable by keeping that vulnerability in their back pocket as insurance. You learn never to be vulnerable again. The first 6 were surgical. They cut you slowly. You might not even feel the blade until you're already bleeding out. But the 7th? The 7th is the cruelest because you created them, you built them, you handed them the tools to replace you, thinking you were building a legacy. You weren't. You were building your own obsolescence. This is the final gate. And most of you won't survive what I'm about to tell you. Number 7. The successor who studies to replace you. This is the person you're mentoring right now, the one you're bringing up, teaching everything you know because you believe in them, seeing potential, seeing a younger version of yourself, wanting to help them avoid the mistakes you made. This generosity, this genuine desire to lift someone up, is being weaponized against you in ways you can't see yet. They're not studying to become like you. They're studying to become you, and then to make you irrelevant. And you're teaching them how to do it with a smile on your face, because it feels good to be needed, feels noble to pass on knowledge, feels like legacy. It's betrayal. Machiavelli observed this pattern repeatedly. The student who learns too well becomes the rival. The protege who gains too much knowledge becomes the threat. The successor who understands your methods too intimately becomes the usurper. History repeats endlessly. The successor operates with long-term patience that you mistake for loyalty. They don't make their move while they still have things to learn from you. They smile, thank you, express gratitude for your mentorship, ask brilliant questions that make you feel validated in your choice to help them. And all the while, they're building their own network, developing their own relationships, positioning themselves as the next generation of leadership in your space. The moment they have your knowledge, your connections, and your credibility by association, they don't need you anymore. Watch what happens. They start to subtly undermine you, begin to position your methods as outdated, suggest to others that while you were great in your time, the game has changed and they represent the future. You become history. They don't destroy you overtly. They make you obsolete, and they do it so smoothly that by the time you realize what happened, they're already standing where you used to stand, speaking to the people who used to listen to you, occupying the space you carved out with your own hands. You enabled it. You gave them the tools, opened the doors, vouched for them when others were skeptical, defended them when people questioned their readiness, and they used every single advantage you provided to build a platform from which to step over you. The tragedy isn't that they betrayed you. The tragedy is that you saw their hunger and mistook it for ambition, saw their questions and mistook them for curiosity, saw their attention and mistook it for gratitude, when all along they were simply taking inventory of everything you had so they could figure out how to take it from you. This one cuts deepest because it destroys what you thought you were building: legacy. You thought you were planting a tree that would grow after you were gone, but you were actually watering a weed that would choke you out while you were still standing, and the person holding the watering can was you. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I mentor with open eyes, not blind trust. You've just been given the 7 faces of betrayal. These are not strangers. They are real people in your life right now, operating in the shadows of your trust. And the only question that matters is whether you're going to keep pretending you don't see them or start protecting what you've built. Machiavelli's genius wasn't in teaching people to be cruel. It was in teaching them to see clearly, to look at human nature without the rose-colored glasses of wishful thinking, to understand that trust is earned through demonstrated patterns of behavior over extended time. The 7 types fail that test. Your sovereignty depends on your ability to identify and neutralize these threats before they can do permanent damage. Your inner circle is either a source of strength or a source of sabotage. There is no neutral ground. Every person close to you is either building your empire with you or quietly dismantling it for their own benefit. If this video opened your eyes to the threats you've been blind to, hit that like button. If you want more truth that protects your power, subscribe to this channel and ring the notification bell. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who's being drained by these 7 types right now, share this video with them. Trust is not weakness, but blind trust is suicide. Learn the difference, stay cold, stay sovereign.